The digital economy is shifting from simply moving money to making it programmable. As tokenization accelerates across capital markets, supply chains, and cross-border payment corridors, a new question emerges. What does money become when it can execute logic, settle instantly, and move without friction? This episode of ATP investigates the rise of programmable money and the role a regulated, interoperable Australian dollar stablecoin could play in Asia's rapidly evolving landscape. We really want to know, how does programmable money redefine settlement, liquidity, and trust in tokenized markets? Is regulatory alignment the true differentiator for stablecoins? And what role can an institutional-grade digital AUD play in Asia's cross-border commerce transformation? To help unpack this, ATP is joined by Effie Dimitropoulos, the CEO of AUDD, who's already taking me off my game. Effie, thank you so much for joining, and welcome to SFF 2025. It's awesome, as usual. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me, Michael. It's my fifth SFF this year, so it's a bit exciting to be here in amongst the hubbub of everything digital finance and the future of digital finance.
It's awesome, and actually it's very different than it was 5 years ago, too. Our first time here was 3 years ago, I think, and the vibe changes every year, but the energy for me is always super high, no?
Super high, yes.
Yeah, I love it here. Okay, let's start with one big question. Why do we need programmable money, and what actually becomes possible with programmable money that our existing financial infrastructure cannot handle?
Where do I begin? You've just asked the big questions.
I know, I did,
Goodness,
and I wanted to make it broad because there's a lot of stuff I want to cover. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a history lesson. And the history lesson is the fact that fintechs have been around for probably the last 20 years, 10 years, around that sort of
something like that, yeah.
And trying to solve some of the problems that have existed in the traditional finance system, banks. And so there has been this proliferation of alternative monies, alternative payments. You would have heard of prepaid cards, vouchers, QR codes, wallets, mobile money.
BNPL.
Buy now, pay later, all of it. So for us, stablecoin was simply a progression of all of that technology and all of those capabilities that programmable monies can solve. And AUDD is one version of a programmable money instrument.
Okay, I want to get back to what can we do that we couldn't do otherwise, but maybe walk me through this progression. I don't necessarily disagree with you, right? Like, I think financial innovation, and I've been involved in the financial markets like you have been for years. I'm probably longer than you because I'm much older than you, but you understand the point. Like, I've seen all these little things happen, and when I look back, I just think, okay, that was the natural next step. Maybe walk me through where you've started figuring out, like, okay, we're not just getting surface level innovation, we're getting real money innovation, and now we're here.
Sure. And again, I think the progression of the alternative payment methods were the progression into the digital economy. So what does that mean for me? That meant that all of a sudden we were buying things online, not in bricks and mortar stores. Yeah. Okay. And so we had to find ways. Well, how do you make payments online? You can't shove cash into a computer, right?
Even if you wanted to.
Even if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story in a second, but go ahead.
Yeah. So what did you have to do? You had to find a way to tokenize that money or make it something that is acceptable online. And so the first versions of that were everything that I just mentioned previously in terms of vouchers and barcodes and other type of payment methods. Yep. And then we end up progressing to the programmability of money, which we can go into a little bit more.
Go. So what does it mean actually when money is programmable? Right? Does it mean that I can only buy things that the money allows me to? Like, what does it really mean?
Well, that's actually one thing that you can do is you can program money to be exactly that, to have rules associated with a smart contract that, I know, I just saw your face that I just moved straight into smart contract. You just
Ethereum to me right away.
Yeah, no, so let's just rewind. Okay, so when you have programmable money, you are able to apply various rules to it that you can't apply to your cash. Your cash is your cash, and it's been minted by a reserve bank of some kind or a central bank, and it only has the functionality that has, it's had for the last hundreds of years or whatever it might be.
Yeah, thousands of years.
That's right.
Essentially, yeah.
So what can we do? We need to be able to say, well, I need to fractionalize it further because I need to make micro payments, and I can't do a quarter of a cent
Yeah, no,
right?
impossible. Not physically.
Yeah.
Because I
But
can't get change for it.
But when you've got electronic money or where you've got programmable money, you can do that.
Right.
And you can apply rules. So I can say, well, this money is meant to be paid for groceries, but it cannot be paid for gambling, let's
Right.
say. Or I need to be able to put rules that say, I have received goods and therefore I can release this payment.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about. So this is
Sure.
really interesting to me. In my mind, I'm desperately trying to find the word escrow.
Yes.
Desperately reaching for it. And I finally came up with it. You took just the right amount of time for me. I'm not going to say programmable money replaces escrow, right? Because what that means is I'm waiting for you to send me something.
Yes.
But you need to make sure that I'm going to pay you too. And the only way to do that is to give it to that guy. So you can say, he says, I have it. And then when you deliver goods to me, he delivers it to you.
Instead,
Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, we can lock it in a contract
Right.
and we can basically put the rules on that smart contract. And the smart contract can only operate with smart money. And smart money is programmable money. And programmable money tends to be easier defined when it's on a blockchain because it has the capability of being transparent and easy to follow and easy to track and trace.
What else is there? Like, what other things can we do that we may not have been able to do? I'm just trying to think in my mind, because for me that was one of the things where it's like, I don't really know you, but you have the thing that I want to pay you, but you're like, I don't really know you either, but we can put that contract out so we can do the money exchange when that other thing happens, right? What other kinds of things are there?
I'm going to give you a story that I love using as an example, and it's not my example,
Tell
but it's a great story, and it talks about the future innovation of the rest of the world as well. So let's think about automated driving cars. Okay?
Go for it. Okay.
Okay. So
Okay,
now
this is
I've
interesting.
got a bunch of automated driving cars
Oh, I love it.
on a
Sorry.
freeway, and I'm in a rush to get to my appointment. But there are like 10 cars in front of me. And I am now going to tell my car, you know what? Can you pay those other 5 cars ahead? Send them all a message. And if they accept it, just send them the money. And it doesn't matter that they know me. It doesn't matter that they don't know who I am or anything. As long as you can send that car a message and say, get out of my way. I want to get ahead. All of a sudden, I've just used programmable money in a very interesting way to get my car ahead so that I can make my appointment on time.
Okay, but now what you're suggesting is there are thousands of different ways, because that's just
Yeah.
one example of the
Sure.
way that would work. I think about autonomous driving all the time, so I'm really glad you chose as an example. But I mean, you could also use it to pay the toll.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily my money, right? But like if you pay a toll, then you can just do it. It just happens automatically. We have cards that do that now. But again, it's a different type of payment, a different way to keep track of it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And somebody would say to you, well, we already have electronic tollways and they already deduct it from our account and we already well, this is a better way to be able to say that I can centralize everything in one
ahead.
form of currency that is programmable in a number of different ways. And I don't have to actually operate all the different tags or all the different wallets or all the different bits.
Well, it simplifies everything.
Sure.
Do you feel like the graveyard for people with bad ideas is when they say, we already have that? Do you know what I mean? You must get this all the time.
I do, and I wouldn't be here today if I didn't revisit some of those bad ideas because...
Yeah, but not your bad idea. In other words,
No.
when other people have a bad... Like when you say
Yeah.
it simplifies stuff and makes it frictionless, it's easier to do and stuff, like we already have that. That guy is the guy with the bad idea.
Well, that guy is the Kodak of the stories, right? You
Oh,
know,
you're not- did you bring up Kodak?
I did bring him up.
Did we talk about this
Yeah,
already?
we haven't talked about it, but that's the bad idea situation. You
Yeah.
have to be open to see,
Yep.
okay, is the timing right now? Right? Was the timing right for QR code payments 6 years ago before COVID? No, it wasn't.
No.
But, and we were almost giving up on it. And
Really?
all of a sudden, in my previous life, and we were almost giving up on it. And then all of a sudden, we didn't want to touch things anymore and we didn't want to hand over cash. So all of a sudden,
Didn't wanna see
QR
people.
codes were cool. So it's a timing issue as well.
So were you involved in a QR business?
In a QR coded
In a
payment
QR code
business.
business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're actually really believe in this progression because you're like, that worked for now. But you were not the guy or the gal, who said we already have this.
Correct.
So that's actually more interesting, no?
Yeah.
Because you've lived the progression. You didn't just see it and not participate. I think it's super important, actually. No?
Yeah.
I want to tell you a funny story, and then we'll move on to putting programmable money into an Asian context, if you don't mind.
Please.
First of all, I talk about Kodak all the time. We won't go there, but I will go here. When Amazon first became a thing, I was living in Japan, and I had a credit card, and I wanted to buy a book, but Amazon didn't deliver to Japan, but I had a way to get it. But I remember not trusting putting my card number into that little slot so much that I called Amazon in Seattle and said, "Can I order a book?" And I couldn't have been the only one doing this because the person didn't say to me, "You're insane." But I just felt more comfortable giving my credit card number to a human, think about it, than to a machine. My only reason for saying this is that the digital way to pay has progressed so much over time and become programmably trustable as well.
I think the proliferation, you are talking about a time where there was less trust, and oh gosh, I feel really
Keep
old
going.
saying this,
No,
right?
keep going.
But it's going to be the mobile phone. I think the mobile phone changed all of that, and when I say mobile phone, I mean the smartphone.
Yeah.
Because you talk about the progression of money. Yes, I was involved in dumb phone money, dumb phone money.
How did that work?
How did that work? You dial 1. If you want to top up with $20, you dial star
Oh, no.
20 and enter. So there was plenty of ways to do things beforehand, but when the smartphone came out and Facebook came out,
Right.
all of the social media stuff came out, and all of a sudden we are trusting email and websites and e-commerce,
Yeah, it's
etc.
strange.
And we're prepared to put our credit cards into that little screen on the online. Then things change from there.
So one of the things that I like to talk to innovators about is this idea of, I kind of always knew this thing, I didn't have a name for it yet, was going to come, but I was just waiting for the technology to catch up to my vision of what was happening. Were you not specifically thinking about that when you're doing QR and some of this QR codes and some of the stuff before that, but did you always have this idea of like, at some point the money's going to have to be digital because everything else is going digital, but we just don't have the tech stack yet?
Very much so. So
when it did arrive, you were just like, now's the time. Sorry, interrupted you.
Yeah,
But you know what I mean,
that's
right?
fine. Absolutely. I have a bit of a giggle because I attended
Please.
a particular session earlier this year where I looked at something on screen and frantically took out my phone and visited a pitch deck that I had from
Right.
2014
Right.
that was the same thing except didn't have stablecoins in it. And I looked at it and I said, it's exactly what I was aiming for at that point in time when I started opening my eyes to the fact that the whole world was trying to move into digital money in some way, shape or form.
Right.
And there was this capability of centralizing or having a cross-border network. And all of a sudden it's here and now and I'm rapt to be in it.
Yeah, and we're probably not over yet.
Oh, no
But
way.
I think the age of the stablecoin and digital money is actually just beginning.
Absolutely.
But I think this is where things are going to be for a while. And again,
I
I
think
won't say
so.
no to new stuff. I'm not going to be that guy, but I think we're pretty close to at least a 10 or 15 year progression for where this is going to be super important.
I think so too. I think if you ask me about future predictions, which maybe you will in the last sentence, but I do think that it's a 5 year to get to a point where everybody sort of gets the word and understands what a stable coin is.
Right.
And probably a 10 to 15 year before it's we don't talk about it anymore because it is
just the way people pay.
That's right.
So can I just share one more interesting thing with
Of
you,
course
if you don't
can.
mind?
Yeah.
My daughter visits me sometimes in Bangkok, and she went to high school in Bangkok. She has tons of friends here.
Mm.
And they go out together, and she's like, "Oh, can you scan this?" And I give her money to go out because I try to be a decent dad. I'm not perfect. But anyway, she said, "Can you send like 145 baht to some friend of mine?" And I'm like, "I gave you all that cash." She's like, "They don't want cash. They just want you to transfer it directly to their bank account. Here's their QR code." So the only reason why I bring that up is not to tell a story about my daughter, but to say that there is a generation of people that are only transacting money digitally
Correct.
already.
Correct.
And when they get the stable coins, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, this is the other thing that I was waiting for, even though I didn't know it was there."
And I see that even, I think you mentioned Thai baht, right? And
Yep.
and we're talking about economies that may have a large population of underbanked people
Yep.
or unbanked people.
Unbanked or underbanked, yeah.
But I also see that in economies that are thriving with a million different payment methods, right?
Yeah.
And it's a generational thing, like you said.
For
They're
sure.
stuck on their phone 24/7. They're the TikTok generation.
They don't know how to pay for stuff otherwise.
They don't know how to pay for stuff otherwise. And they're quite happy to go onto a neobank that they can just sign up to online. They don't care about the bricks and mortar.
Don't care.
And they don't care about cash. No one's carrying the cash anymore.
No.
They're paying on their phone or their
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
or whatever it might be. So it makes sense.
Let's put this into an Asian context. If you think that Asia is leading the innovation of cross-border payments, where does AUDD come in to add value and contribute to regional transformation, not just Australia's transformation?
Sure. So APAC, of course, Asia, Southeast Asia, it is a massive market for Australia from a trade corridor perspective. Yep. So if we start from a trade corridor perspective, you think about the imports, exports that are going on between China and Australia, or Vietnam or Philippines.
Yeah, I mean, how much coking
Malaysia.
coal goes from Australia to China?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, I sort of steer away from the commodities discussion, and only because commodities are priced in US dollars.
I get it.
Right?
I get it.
So
today,
but
today, but go ahead.
And today, but it doesn't discount the fact that the stablecoins have a place. It might not be AUDD that has a place in the commodities market.
Fair enough.
However, stablecoins certainly do have a place
for sure
in that market.
Go ahead.
But if we're talking about importers and exporters who aren't pricing in US dollars, who are pricing in local currency,
right?
Why would they take FX risk on their balance sheet? Why would they take the hedging risk by making payments in anything other than their native currency of Australian dollars? So if you want to pay for your imports coming in, or if you want to be paid for those, you want to transact in your local sovereign currency.
What's the implication for the currency value if the AUDD has to be backed by $1, one Australian dollar to one stable coin, or to one representation of $1 of a stable coin? What's the implication on the currency, on foreign exchange trading and stuff like that? Is there any kind of...
So if you're talking from a monetary policy perspective, from a reserve perspective, or are you talking about from I'm a CFO or a treasurer of a company?
Kind of all of it, in the sense that, like, I live and work in Australia, I get paid in Australian dollars, but no one ever, no one gets a paycheck anymore. Some digital thing gets transferred from your company into your bank account.
You're now talking about my dream of getting paid in stablecoins and then using stablecoins for all of your transactions.
I'm kind of asking,
Why
right? Because
not?
I'm kind of asking.
Yeah.
So how would that work, like, technologically, digitally? Do you know what I mean?
Technologically is the easy part. It's more about the...
And how would anybody know the difference?
Utility. They don't need to know the difference. Do you know where your $100 is sitting today?
No idea.
In the being backed, because it's being backed somewhere, and it's not actually being backed 100%, but that's a different story.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We won't go into that part.
Yeah.
However, the difference here is that private issuers in particular, and if the banks move into that space, which some of them I imagine will be moving into that space,
right.
You do have to attest to your reserves, because you need to prove to the public for trust purposes that those monies are backed.
Well, otherwise there's nothing there, right?
Otherwise there's nothing there. There's no trust. It's vaporware.
Yeah. Interesting. Can you define tokenization as well?
Tokenization is simply putting a smart contract on a physical something of value. That physical something of value could be gold, it could be commodities, it could be a money market fund, it could be a deposit, it could be money like a stablecoin. So all of that is tokenization. It's turning it into a digital representation. In our case, and in the cases that I've spoken about, it's predominantly on the blockchain.
Right.
The beauty of the blockchain, especially if it's permissionless blockchain, is its transparency, its immutability, and its visibility for the end user.
I love talking about blockchains. Can we make the case that a stable coin is just the flip side of a tokenized asset? Because the thing about a tokenized asset, again, like, I can have a house, but it's really hard for me to chop the house physically into 17,000 different pieces and then sell it off. No one's
unless
really
you tokenize it.
Right, so that's why you tokenize it.
Correct.
And once it becomes a digital asset, you can split it into, like, the smallest denomination possible.
Correct.
But stablecoins are the flip side of that, where the money itself can be
broken up into tiny little
pieces, and then those tiny little pieces then can be used to buy those tokenized assets.
Correct. That's right.
So I think that's the important part here. Where does the regulationary, like, construct come into play? Like, are regulations in the overall regulatory environment keeping up with the pace of innovation in digital money, do you think? And what kind of interactions do you need to have, not you personally, but the people that are supporting either tokenization or the flip side, the stable coins, with regulators to make sure that the pace of innovation can keep up with the necessity for that pace of innovation in a regulatory compliant way?
It's a great question, and it's a very large question.
Yeah.
And why I say that is because regulation varies globally, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, regulator by regulator. And if you're looking at the core principles, I think that's where there's a lot of commonality. And a lot of commonality comes in the fact that the regulators want to protect their customers, their end consumers. So you need to try to engender trust. And to have trust, you want to be able to have some set of either standards or principles or a framework that enables protection for the consumer ultimately, but also protection for the sovereign currency that you're actually dealing with.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to have a situation where an issuer goes bust for some reason and then all of a sudden vaporware, you know, so you don't want to have that situation. So that's where regulation is important.
Do you also think it's important to have some amount of regulatory harmonization in the sense that if I'm an Australian retailer, let's say, right, and I'm importing from China, right? So let's stay away, like you said, from the commodities because it's a different animal. I want to pay in my currency, but they want to receive in their own currency, but I can give them a stable coin, right, to pay for that. It somehow gets transferred into one or whatever. I get my goods and stuff like that. But what if their regulatory environment for the use of stable coins is different than yours? Does harmonization, is it necessary, possible, desired?
Look, I think there's a desire for some core fundamental similarity in the principles.
I would think
harmonization is, I think I've used the word many times, and we always come down to it's a little bit of a pipe dream. You cannot have harmonization for a variety of reasons, whether that be because of the particular monetary unit being volatile or a stable currency. So if we're talking about a G10 currency, you know, we're approximately all the same. But if we're talking about something, you know, that's a lot more volatility.
Yeah, like a currency in Myanmar or a currency in Laos or something like that.
Then the regulation is not going to be, it's not going to be harmonized.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What makes AUDD unique and more relevant for institutional use?
In terms of the Australian market and in terms of cross-border.
Both, yeah.
We've been operational and talking with the regulators from day one. We've been operating with the principles that we believe should have been in place from the first day we started operations. Consumer protections, of course, as I mentioned, being front and center, and then treating it like taking you know a lot of the e-money principles from around the world and applying those to how we approached the proliferation of an AUDD stablecoin. And so we've been in operation for well over 3 years. We've acknowledged and identified that Australian payments aren't broken. Where are they broken? They're broken in the cross-border space. They're broken when you move money and value outside of your own backyard. And so that's where we aim to play.
What's the broken part of it?
The broken part of it is that it's costly. It takes a lot of intermediaries to move money the traditional ways because of correspondent banking and intermediary relationships.
Okay, so
and
go ahead.
Everybody takes a clip
along the way. A little bit of a
way.
piece, yeah.
And it's also the time that it takes. It could take, depending on what currency it is,
3 days, 4 days,
7 days,
yeah,
depending
7 days,
on the currency. And it can be, it's not transparent. What I mean by this, I could make a payment to you today,
right?
Tell you I've made a payment, take a screenshot of a receipt that I took a payment. You can be waiting at the other end in your bank account. Is it here? Did Effie pay me? Did Effie pay me? I could have pulled it back. You get to day 7, you said, who's that Effie? She did not pay that.
I haven't received it yet.
Do it on the blockchain. It's instant. It's there. I can see it. It's done.
So again, another story.
Immutable.
So I get money sent to me periodically from Japan.
Yeah.
And I get a mail from the sending institution that says, you will receive this money today. And I never do.
Correct. Well, that disappears. That disappears.
But also I don't know, and I never really thought about it this way, right? But I don't know where it goes in between, because it goes from Japanese yen into Thai baht. What's happening in between?
Intermediary banks and correspondent banks.
Yeah, I know that, but like, what does that really mean to regular people?
It means that if I am a house that only has Japanese currency in my vault, right? I need to, if I need to get Thai baht money, I need to either have a stash of it sitting in my vault,
right,
or I need to work with a party that has that Thai baht sitting in their vault. Now, if I don't have enough of it, I've got to go to that external party. So now I've got to do a deal with that correspondent bank to say, I'll give you some Japanese yen to buy some of your Thai baht, and you're going to charge me a fee while you're doing that. And then the Thai baht has to get to the bank because it doesn't happen to be the bank that you bank with.
Right. Could be any bank in Thailand.
That has to try to get it to your bank. So again, we've got another party and another fee before it even gets into your bank account.
You know what drives me crazy? I took money out of my bank here yesterday. They charged me $5 to get my own money.
Madness.
But I mean $5 to get my own money.
Madness. So you can either put it in your mattress and or carry big pockets full, although don't carry over $10,000 or you'll get done at the airport.
Exactly. I'm not doing that. You talked about blockchain earlier, right? It's on the blockchain. It makes things easier, it makes things faster, it makes it more transparent. How important is, because there's not just one blockchain. So how important is interoperability? And how hard is that? Is it progressing? Is it better? Like, how important is that?
It's pretty important because there are what we call chains for particular use cases. So there are some chains that are better for remittances because they are faster. They carry KYC information, so know your customer information on the transaction along with the chain. They have, they have greater latency, and so they're designed for remittances, or they're designed for trade finance cases, or they're designed for the DeFi space. So there's a lot of different chains purporting to do different things, and depending on which one you go to, as to what you need to do. Now, you said interoperability, and that's the key word here, because when I've got an Australian $20 note,
right,
I should be able to go to any bank and any country and use my same $20 note. So this is where the interoperability piece does come to play. There is still a piece that needs to be fixed. If you are on one particular chain, you can't necessarily and easily put it onto another chain. There are many players who are aiming to fix that, and so we work with those kind of parties to make sure that AUDD is interoperable amongst all the chains.
Does not programmable money also make fraud slightly harder? Because if I can program it only to go to you, does it make it harder to steal?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because like if I drop a 20 over there, like some wise guy over there can just pick it up and walk away, and I have no way of knowing it's mine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right. And so one of the beauties, look, stablecoins aren't necessarily used in such a way that says, oh, okay, I'm going to give you $20 and I need to see that transaction on chain. I don't know that it's you. I don't know which country you're in. I just know a bunch of numbers, right? But you're quite right. If I have this $20 bill and I give it to you and you give it to 100 other people, we don't know that it made 100 steps or 2 steps.
Right, we have no idea.
Whereas with a stablecoin or any other digital currency,
it's traceable.
It's traceable.
But I think it's more. I think it's deeper than that, actually. I really do, because so if I use AUDD or any stablecoin, you can be even more general if you want.
Yeah.
We call it programmable. Are we going to get to the point where I can program the money? And I'm thinking again about, like, I have a 10-year-old and I say, please go to the supermarket and buy me whatever, some cold cuts or whatever it is. And they just go and buy like a box full of candy. I know it's a weird example. I know it's a weird example, but it's simple because people understand it. But in other words, there's so much grift and graft inside big corporations. Like, most companies get ripped off more internally than they do externally. And I could tell you 1,000 accounts payable stories that would blow your mind when I was at Morgan Stanley back in the late 80s and early 90s. I think it's harder today. But still, if you're making a payment to someone, if you program it to only go to one specific place, then you can't steal it. Now, let me give you another example. Do you mind?
Sure. No, please
I
do.
can't stop thinking about this. Some of the partners at some of the big investment banks make so much money that they don't know how much money is in each one of their accounts. And there are stories about PAs just kind of skimming off the top a little bit because they give them access to it so they can pay their bills and stuff like that. This one story inside of a company where I worked, and I won't mention it, this one PA actually bought her mother a house in Spain with like little bits and pieces of money being come off top. But if that money had been programmable, that's not possible, right?
It's not possible. That's right.
That's what I want to know. And I know it's a weird story, but I'm just saying, like...
But I will add, I don't think it's the programmable money piece that would necessarily have changed that. I think it's more of the case of either the wallet and the traceability and the wallet technology that's being used to hold those stablecoins.
Got it. What's the long-term vision for AUDD in the context of global digital money? What's the long-term view?
Long-term view is that we want to be anywhere where Australian dollar is today. We want to be AUDD stablecoin tomorrow. Okay,
and one more thing before I let you go. What's the craziest idea you envisioned for stablecoins that other people may think is really not possible, but you're pretty sure is going to happen at some point?
Wow, that's a great question.
Do you know what I mean? Because, and I'll put it into context for you. We were talking earlier about, like, you were doing the QR code payment thing. You're just thinking, we know this works. We know it's really good, but I think we can do something else that's a little bit crazier in this way. You still, like, you're too smart not to have ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I think the stablecoin, I don't necessarily want to see it as a single currency that can be used anywhere, but I do want it to be an instrument that is frictionless to move between making payments that it's not even thought about anymore. Like, I want to go to China or Ghana or Greece or UK and not even think about the local currency,
Right.
just be able to transact in my Australian dollar stablecoin.
And hopefully that will happen. Effie Dimitropoulos, the CEO of AUDD, expectedly awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
having
very
me.
much.
Appreciate it.